forgot. Oh,
It's
fuck.
8. It's 8:25, so we have
Did
about
my
15
F-bomb make it
minutes.
onto the recording?
It may have. I don't know. I'm
Oh,
gonna have to
no.
review the tape. Yeah, it's the meme with that monkey. Oh no, you know that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is season 8, episode 21, number 328. The fact that you and I have been jumping in later than usual just tells me we haven't had time to chat. You know what I missed? I miss our Friday phone calls when I'm sitting in my house just uh, calming my body, and then my cell phone rings. I'm like, who's calling my cell phone? And it's you. Hey man, remember when you used to do that? You're like, it's Friday. How's it
Yeah.
going? I'm just checking in. We don't do that anymore, but maybe that's something we need to pick up at some point. Who knows? I don't
I'm
know.
down. I'm
I know
down.
you're
It's
down.
funny, my commute is like if I'm driving, it's better in the spring, I guess, when if I'm walking or I'm riding the bike, right? Because then I got a little bit more time to chit chat.
Uh,
So
but anyway, I think that's what's happening here, and it's okay because we do what we do with our podcast, so it's okay. Hey, good morning, Gary. Gary's
morning,
with us
Gary.
this morning. Gary and I were texting back and forth yesterday. Um, Gary, I'm dying. I'm trying to remember why I messaged you. I messaged Gary. Oh, probably because I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, and I decided to hit Gary up. So Gary and I had some words. And Gary, I wanted to say I'm so sorry that I left you hanging. So Gary and I were talking, and then dinner, dinner. I went out to get dinner, and when I went to do that, I abandoned Gary in the text world. And now I'm talking to Gary here. I don't know how many hours later on the podcast. So Gary, I'm sorry about that. I ghosted you, but I'll get back to you sometime today. And Rochelle, good morning. Good sunny morning, Rochelle. Yes. Welcome to the March break in Ontario. The March break in Ontario, where I was telling Chris in the on ramp that I think I was upsetting some of my colleagues yesterday because they came into my workspace, and part of our chit chat interaction is, oh my God, it's the last day before we get a week off. And I felt as though my colleagues were up here on a scale of like feeling really good. And I was right around here. So this is funny. I'm going to say for the people who are listening, but let's face it, nobody's listening. People probably are watching more than they're listening, but I've got my hand really high up. These people are feeling really good. And my hand's kind of in between. It's lower, like 15 to 20 centimeters lower than the high. And like, what's going on with you? I'm like, I'm just living this Friday like it's a regular Friday because I got stuff to do. And if I'm elevated as high as you, I'm going to be so ADHD type. I'm not going to get anything done because I'm going to be swimming in this excitement that this is it. We're leaving for a week. I don't want to swim in that excitement. What I want, because that's harmful to me. I know that already. It's harmful. I don't get anything done. I'll feel like garbage midweek this week. I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel those things. So, future Roland, thankfully, was kind of hanging out with the past Roland and working on the present Roland to get stuff done. So,
Three amigos.
the three amigos, yeah. So I was operating like it was just a regular Friday and making sure I was setting up for Monday. So when I return, it's a return like it normally would, generally
Mm-hmm.
speaking. Rochelle gets it. She says, I get it. Rochelle gets it. So anyway, my colleagues were like, what is wrong with Roland? I'm like, well, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong. I'm just trying not to waste my Friday. And as I told you, the student success room was out of control this week during periods I was in there. Whoa. Like, whoa, whoa. Uh, it was busy, uh, which is fine. I mean, that's my job to work in the room, help kids, do all the stuff. But man, it was something else. So here we are, March break, and
To say
I'm happy.
it's the whole, student success rooms being busy. I always like to, and this is something historically that I think if you ever dare to have open classroom support room, I think you have to have really clear kind of rules of engagement that the whole staff understands and kind of accepts just to maintain, because to have a busy room can feel awesome as long as the processes are being followed. Where I've found this gets tricky is where it's not clear. It's not clear. And, everyone, I'll assume good intentions. Everyone's working in the interest of helping kids be successful. But I also know shortcuts are sometimes taken. Sometimes this kid and I just need some space. Can we have an alternate working? Like it's almost like the accommodations are for the teacher. This can happen, right? Human work, human problems. It's the way our system should be, right? We can't completely automate it. But I like I always like the discussion around student success rooms or workrooms being busy, because I love to talk about what are the actual elements on that particular day, that hour, that period that are actually making it busy. And have we done this to ourselves? As in, it's not actually busy, it's actually broken to a degree. There's something just not right about it. And those things can sometimes run really, really close to one another. So from, the booking system to the rules of engagement in the room to how does this room look relative, like what's this room's proximity to the rules of the school? Um, what are the behavioral expectations? Those sort of social and affective elements that are at work there. What's the reciprocity with work look like? So the feedback loop of the actual individuals in there, and they're working multi-curricula in there. There's different lines coming in. Like, is there ever discussions around, interesting assignment, but can I provide some consultation to you, teacher X, about the design of it and how it doesn't really work as an independent task? There's a lot of really cool opportunities to make it a learning rich in multiple modalities. Often, though, I find the singularity is this kind of skewed idea of only being in service, and this kind of flips flops to the teacher, the sending teacher, or to the kid, and not always towards an end. That I'll do one little sort of sidebar on this to where this makes sense for me. When I was back in Access, so Gary Rochelle Access for us is a program in our school. There's 4 sites, and that's where the students go when they're on suspension or expulsion. So I was there for 2.5 years, something like that, 2.25 years, something like that, doing that programming. And in there, one of the discussions myself and the support worker that I was working with is like, we get it. This kid has been sent to Isolation Island. They're no longer with their social groups. They're no longer in their school. Like they're at an alternative site. All that notwithstanding, how will this be a restorative experience for them? And that's a really challenging kind of conversation to jump into, but it was awesome because it really got us, when we got to the tables of talking to the sending principals and the teachers, that it didn't make it one way. It was like, no, we need to sort of have these kids, sure, complete the work, but they also need to have conversations. They need to have connection. They need to have supports. They need to have place to decompress. We need to have all that. And student success rooms operate in a similar fashion. Often what brought the kid there is not the test. It's other stuff. So how does the student success room also play a restorative part, not only, in that particular moment, but on a whole day basis? And then what's the consultative value there where the student success team can come back to the staff and say, look, and we make sure everyone's in the same conversation. And one of those same conversations is, you got to stop this shit. Stop just blindly sending kids down to us and not giving context. You got to stop this shit. Give us a little bit more information. Give us time. You got to stop this shit. Like, let us have, how about you and I talk and we'll set up a plan, as opposed to, hey, I got to send this kid down. And this is from my experience in these rooms, right? And I always found like that's the tougher work, human problems, human work. Like that's the tougher work, but you end up kind of building something really specific and cool for your school. It doesn't just become about completing the test or the task, because that's such a small part of what goes on in these spaces. And it was a small part of what happened in my access space too, when the kids came to us, right? That's my TED talk. So I took up a lot of our time. Gary, Rochelle, I will tell you, our shorter pods are entirely my fault.
No, they're not.
Because, well, no, let me contextualize it, right? Because I think our on-ramp is still our on-ramp. So we're not reducing the on-ramp. But what has changed is that I have Tai Chi at 9 a.m. So, and this is an activity that, kids knew we talked about and stuff like that. So, um, I'm not trying to be overtly provocative or soak up all the time by introducing that, stop this shit stuff. But yeah, that's why we've shortened it up.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the context with people. I think I would like to, as long as you're doing your Tai Chi, I would like to find a way maybe for us to tighten up our on ramps so that we can have more time here. But at the same time, it's not happening. It's not happening. We're doing our thing. What I want to say about what you said, and I appreciate what you said, there's a couple of things. Um, the first one is it has been fantastic to work with my colleagues and to gather context and to do my absolute best to serve the student and meet their needs, while at the same time gathering context from the teachers in order for me to be effective with the kid. When that happens, it's friggin' golden. And it seems to happen every day, every period that I'm in student success. There's a moment where there's a student and I'm able to connect with the student, but I'm also able to connect with the teacher to say, like, student can't get this. What do you want me to do with them? This is what it says on the sheet, but it doesn't make any sense because the kid's not flowing with your vibe. And then there's like, it's just a back and a forth to the point where at the end of the period, the kid's got something tangible to leave with that the teacher can then, it can inform the teacher on their learning. And the student feels good about having completed something and learned something. And I feel good that as the middle person, I was able to bridge these two things in a way that was beneficial to both people. But there are, and I'm going to say it, there are some of my colleagues that they don't care about the established rules of the room and how it should operate. They don't care. And I know the people who are always happy-go-lucky can be like, "Oh, that's not fair, Roland." No, it's fair. I've been in there long enough to know now and get to know some people that some people just don't care. Some people care too much. Uh, I get to see it all. One person came into the room last week when it wasn't really busy. Oh, and this busy business is not like, this is what people think, "Oh, it's a joke. You're just in there kind of supervising and monitoring. You're not doing anything." I'm like, "Oh man, that's tough."
But
Like,
that's a marketing issue. That
yeah,
that is a that yeah, that's a total marketing issue. There will be people that will always say guidance, student success, that's a plum deal. You
yeah.
just get to sit in a room, you don't have to do any planning.
So a
So
teacher walked into the room and looked around and said, "This is nice." I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of quiet at the moment." Thinking this could explode. I know the explosion could happen at any moment. But anyway, I said, "Oh, at the moment, it's, yeah, we've got more test writers than we do people finishing tasks or starting tasks, whatever." And there weren't behaviors in the room at that time because that's the other thing too. Some kids walk in and they come with their baggage. They don't care where they're going or what they're doing. They just come with it.
moving in, they're
And then
moving
it's
in.
kind of the way I see myself is, okay, let's connect with the kid and figure out what's going on. And if they, like, there comes a point where they step over a line. I'm like, "You're leaving now because you're just here to cause problems. You're not here to do any work. You're not letting me connect with you. Like, we're done here. I got other things to do. You can go back to your class because you're not ready for this." We rarely get there, but I've gotten there a couple of times. So this teacher stand there and they're looking at the room. They're like, "You know what I think I'm going to do?" I said, "What?" I said, "I think I'm going to talk to the principal and tell them I want a section in here next year. This is awesome. There's no marking." Basically, the teacher was basically saying, "I want to be in here for at least a period next year. Nothing. This is great." I was like, "Oh shit. Did you just say that out loud?" Like, they're like, "I got young kids at home and, I want a section in here. I
Mm.
want a student success section." I'm like, "Oh, no, you don't. Because you don't know what comes with that. Like, do you know what comes with that?" And that's what I'm thinking in my head. And I'm just standing there staring at them thinking, I'm thinking about like my to-do list, the kids I need to grab out of class, meet with for caseload and to contact parents for this and to contact this person for that. And they're like, "Yeah, I think this is a good gig. I'm going to ask for a section in here next year." Okay. I said, "Okay. So, well, maybe I'll see you in here next year." uh, like, I'm hoping I'm still doing this job next year. There's something else I want to do that I'm going to let my principal know about. It's probably not going to happen, but I guess if that doesn't happen, I'm assuming I get to keep the job I'm doing, so I'll be in there, but I don't know. So I'm like, "Oh, maybe I'll see you in here next year." And then they left, and I shook my head and I was like, "Oh, that's nuts. That sucks that they think we're doing nothing in here." But
I,
whatever. I'm not there to convince them otherwise.
yeah. The only thing I'll say, I don't want the last words, but I got to bust out soon. The one thing I will say is that if you are intending to stay, I think from my experience in the staffing cycle is that it can just happen because you were there. I like the version far more. You're in there because you've built a process. You think in a 2-3 year cycle. So whatever you've built this year is like phase one. So that when you do get in those conversations where they say, oh, you know what, we kind of need you to teach geography, you can clearly say something beyond your interest. You can like, no, I'd actually appreciate keep me in there. And here's why. Here's what I'm building towards. And that's from at least from my experience in leadership frameworks, can actually turn the tables for you because the admin can always just put you where they need you. And that process isn't off in sitting in the staff. So sitting in the staff, I've been on staffing committee in the past, and that conversation, that was really telling. That conversation popped up once where someone advocated said, no, 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 don't move that person out of that course yet. This is what they're involved with in developing it. Next year, we need to kind of keep them in there. Otherwise, that work kind of disappears. It's not embedded yet. It's not embedded yet. So that's key term here for you. Be able to speak to that operating system, what you're working towards, why you're a good person to keep working on it, and why you need another year or two to embed it. At least then you've said something beyond and it's that data. What's the legacy? What's the evidence that you had a positive impact? What are the tools you're leaving behind for other people? And that conversation, just from a staffing and a preferred portfolio perspective, is really powerful. So I mentioned that to you just as because the hope of being in that same job is really it's too gray zone for me. I want to be a determinant in my own direction. And I've told you I've started those conversations with my own administrator, even to the point of we have a substitute principal in right now. And I went to them, I said, are you going to be staying through the remaining of the staffing cycle? And they're sort of looking at me strange because sometimes like I know stuff that normal teachers don't know, like even to call it, use the jargon, it's triggering. They're like, and they basically the original principal should be coming back to continue. I said, okay. And I could see the look on their face. I said, I had just started a professional conversation with them and I needed to follow up with part two that could impact staffing. And they're like, oh, yeah. So,
So, based on what you said, like I said, there's another direction I want to go in, and
yeah.
I my principal and my vice principal, they know that that's what I want. They know what I want to do, but I think I'm going to make clear to them when I fill out my. I've got we've got
The form.
a form, and it's due soon, so I'm going to fill it out over the break, and I'm going to provide details, and I'm also going to check in with them to see if we can talk more about it. But if I can't do if I can't move in the direction that I want, then I want to continue doing what I'm doing. And I've been really pushing with my administrator, and he's listened to me about. I currently teach an e-learn course, and I'm not going to get into it here, but it's providing me with a flexibility to that positively influences my IEP monitoring job, which is my
Mhm.
what I call my day job, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, long story short, and I'm going to be frank for a second here. Um, I'm going to tell them this is the direction I want to go in. If I can't go in that direction, I want to continue doing what I'm doing, and I really want e-learning courses so I can continue to go deeper in what I'm doing as a special education teacher. And here's if you need justification, you need a rationalization. Here's how I'm currently operating and how I believe I'm being effective. And part of that effectiveness is because I have a flexibility from the e-learning, but I also really enjoy that world of teaching and learning. I'm really digging it. I'm digging deep there too, which is awesome. Nobody seems to care about that except the e-learning people, but I'm digging there in ways that I feel I'm being uber effective there too. So when you look at the big picture, you know, this is why it works well for everybody, and people want to hear that. It doesn't just work well for me. I think it works well for the school, for the kids. So let's keep it rolling. And if you can't, can we please sit down and have a conversation? Because if you're gonna give me a geography or whatever, can it be a whatever instead, so that I still feel like I can be effective? And they heard me because I was not supposed to have e-learn this semester, and I was quite concerned with where they wanted me. And I would have done it if I had to, because that's what my job was. But I made it clear to everybody that because I'm going to be overwhelmed with what you have me doing, we're going to lose stuff on the spec ed department area because I can't do it all. And I'm more than happy to tell people that. Uh, it's not a cop out. It's, I know my limit, my capacity, and I know how to grow. And we're going to have a problem because I'm going to be less effective on one end so I can be more effective on another because I don't know what I'm doing. And they were able to make it work. And because of that, I kept rolling and I'm growing now, right? Like there's growth and I'm building my capacity. Anyway, that's it's a lot of political stuff, but I'm happy to sit down with my administrators and say, this is what's going on. I think I'm doing a great job. I can make this better. I can dig deeper and I can become more effective. These are some of the things I would like if it's possible. And I think that they're listening to me and they're going to try to do whatever they can to help me grow. That's it.
I dig that you said the words.
Thanks. Gary agrees with you, and Rochelle thinks it's fantastic.
I'm off the Tai Chi.
Enjoy, bro. Have a good one. Thanks,
Adios.
Gary and Rochelle. We'll talk to you next week. See ya.
Peace, man. I'll chat you later for sure.
Season 8, episode 21, 328 out.
I love it.